bought the building in 2018. It's a Moplah building, a Muslim building from Calicut, in Kozhikode. And it was built at the turn of the 20th century. And the family were traders. Of course, as most of the Muslim families of Calicut were, they all have somebody even today who's overseas. And their whole livelihood was from trade, particularly with the Middle East. And so what we do when we build a house, before we take it down, we document every piece of wood. We write on every piece of wood where it's from, what north, south, east, west, veranda, whatever. And we video the whole thing. And then we take it down, bring it here, and put it up bit by bit. And thanks to Mr. Vijay.
And the structures are all as much as you could use.
All the wood, we use the wood. And whatever stone is there.
But of course, there will be the old structures, so you have to,
do
replace
the
it with identical.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the foundation we have to put in all the electricity, of course, and we use all the old woods. And you can see the old windows and doors and all.
As far as wood is concerned, old is good.
And the traditional Muslim house always has the tinai inside, so that there's more privacy. And then they usually have a curtain, so to keep the privacy to the inside of the house. So visitors will sit on the tinai.
So the flooring patterns, you followed what
yes,
was there?
Yes, the colors and everything we followed from that. So it's as close as we can get.
Do you have to treat the wood?
What we do is we polish every piece of wood, and then we clean every piece of wood. We polish it, we give it an initial polishing, and then after we put it up, we polish it again. It's a lot of work.
There's no anti-termite treatment.
We do anti-termite treatment and the foundation completely. And some of our houses, it's a big fight between the termites and us.
Yeah.
We have to spray all the time. So actually, I don't want anyone standing in the rain. Why don't we come in?
Go inside.
And
Can we wear chapel?
Yeah.
so we can wear chapel.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to the inauguration this evening. Many of you might know me from Manasthala days. It has been a long time since I have exhibited my works, and it's quite nostalgic to have you all here. I would like to thank Debbie and her team for offering this wonderful Moplah house here at Dakshinachitra and assisting us. Big thanks to Shanta Sheila Nair and Mr. Vijay, who have taken time out of their busy schedule to be here and inaugurate the exhibition. The pressing issue of climate change has been in the news for decades now, and we are all experiencing the effects in our everyday lives. It deeply saddens me to see the destruction that human-caused climate change has created. We have experienced some major disasters in the last couple of years: floods in Chennai, Kerala, Uttarakhand, landslides in Himachal, and many others. Not only that, I see the lives of animals, birds, trees being drastically affected. Art has always been a powerful instrument to convey complex messages as well as emotions, as it transcends boundaries and speaks many languages. As a textile artist, with the skills that we and the knowledge we have, we try to do our part in raising awareness on the complex issue of climate change. Lastly, I'd like to add that none of this would have been possible without my team at Common Thread Studio. We have worked together on this project for 18 months. I hope you enjoy immersing yourself in the work as much as we have enjoyed creating them. Little bit on the whole idea, how it came about. I was always seeing conferences being held on climate change and people talking around the table and things like that. How would it really come to the people, the information to the people? And I thought art could be one of the mediums through which people can relate to it. So that is one of the contributions that we as artists can make for raising awareness on climate change.
Deborah, Kalyani, Mr. Vijay, Sharat, and friends, it's indeed a great pleasure for me to be here. I have worked both with Debbie and with Kalyani many years ago when I was Chennai Corporation Commissioner. That was more than 4 decades ago, and I know a thing or two about waste and also about climate change. I have seen climate change in my own lifetime, how devastating it can be. I think Kalyani has focused on the point about climate change and how humans have contributed to accelerating it. I'd just like to reflect on the fact that climate change is nothing new for the planet. The planet has always gone through climate change. We have had the ice age, we've had all kinds of ages, the dinosaurs came and went, and so it is at some time, our time on this planet will be done. But all that we are doing is we are accelerating it. We are not allowing nature to do. Nature will do its part, and we will all be no longer part of this planet at some time, but we are hastening the process. That's one thing. And more important, Kalyani has mentioned about climate change and the devastating effects it has, etc. There is a lot we can do as individuals in reducing the pace of acceleration. What kind of lifestyles do we adopt? What kind of choices do we make in terms of energy, in terms of food, in terms of everything that goes around what contributes to acceleration of climate change? And one important point which I think Kalyani is trying to show in this exhibition with the support of Debbie and others is waste being showcased at artistic pieces. We have heard about waste being converted into wealth, being upcycled for various other useful, so-called useful purposes. But waste as a medium for expression of art, I think, is a wonderful idea, because it's not only just the creation of one artist, it gets the whole community involved. We have this wonderful piece now done in Elliott's Beach, in Besanagar Beach, where all the plastic bottles from the ocean have been collected and a huge fish has been made out of those plastic bottles. And it as she says, it really shakes the conscience, makes you realize how important this issue is. And also, I think that maybe with the influential people like Debbie and Vijay and all that, we should have these art pieces go up for the hammer, where they are auctioned and they are sold as really valuable pieces which they have contributed to society. If art can be made through waste, and if we can support art and artistic efforts made out of waste and give them much more value in terms of appreciation, as much as we would give for an M.F. Hussain or a Van Gogh or something like that, and if we all do that, then all this waste would not have gone waste. And it would be a wonderful way to do that. And I think this point that Kalyani is making today is something indeed new. And it's her contribution, it's a personal contribution to her and her team. I wish to congratulate you, Kalyani. We have gone a long way back, both Debbie and Kalyani. Debbie from my days in the corporation, when she was a young American bride in an Indian household, wearing a sari and, very typical South Indian lady. Now she looks very different. I was recalling to her how she looked in those days. So that is the change that Debbie has been able to put together this place. And at that time, there was no Dakshinachitra. And she was just telling me it was 26 years now that Dakshinachitra has been not only been there, but flourishing and doing well. And this is a wonderful thing you are doing, Debbie, that you are making this place also the place for giving this message of art from waste. Kalyani and I go back a long way. We worked together on a weaving project in 13 districts in Tamil Nadu, covering 25,000 weavers, upgrading their skills. And I still remember Kalyani wowed the then Chief Minister Jayalalitha with the products she made out of those weavers, because we did not only saris, which they were regularly doing, but she upscaled them into furnishings, table mats, and all kinds of things out of that lovely weaving weavers who were mostly very, very backward, economically backward, very poor. She upscaled the looms, and we did some wonderful work together. I'm very happy to see that that was more than 20 years ago, and Kalyani is still at it and still contributing in her own way, in a very significant way. I hope there is enough media here to cover this event and say art is possible with waste, and waste is possible with art. I congratulate both of you once again, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you.
I'll talk about Dakshinachitra itself. I think it's a tremendous testimony to Debbie and also all the other people involved with it in setting this up. In the early years, it was very difficult. I know I've been here. My sister-in-law, Geeta Ram, was also involved with this. So we used to come quite often with the grandchildren to visit all the places. But I can see that over the years, it has undergone a change. It has had its own niche established. And I was very happy to hear that operationally, they are able to be self-sufficient and only seek for help when they want to introduce new exhibits, new structures. I think Dakshinachitra brings out the culture of the South. I think really you're talking about different parts, and the South is very different from the North, because the geography of India helps. All the invasions happened in the North. In the South, it was more from the Arab traders and the eastern side and the western side. So the history of the South is very different, and it has undergone a lot of changes, but not as much as what the northern states have undergone. So, and in the South, Kerala is very, very special. I think people call it God's own country, but it has, you have the matriarchal system there. The people are very inquisitive, and they have had association with the Jews, with the Portuguese, with the Moplahs. So a lot of international this thing is there, and even now Keralites are known to be migrating, very much like the Sindhis, and the Keralites are the ones who migrate lots more all over the world. So they're sort of universal citizens. So I'm very happy that the Kerala House, they've got 5 cottages representing different aspects of Kerala, structures and architectures, and very happy to be associated with it. Thank you.
Mr. Vijay is the CEO of Breaks India, and he's one of the donors for the house, one of the major donors. And we have a representative of Sundaram Finance who's here, and they were the other donors for the house. And also Kausalya Jagmohan, she also helped. So with these donors, we were able to put up this structure, and we're very happy for that. So, and this is a Moplah house. It's a Muslim house. Many of the Moplahs are still matrilineal because they intermarried with the Arab traders, intermarried with local women. And they have their own particular style of living that is from Kozhikode, Calicut. And even today, most families have one member abroad, usually in the Middle East, and their whole work is basically in trade. So they've been trading in wood, in spices, in textiles, and so many other aspects. So thank you for coming for the inauguration. And where is he? Do you want to say anything? No? Okay. And where is the person who's taking everybody around? Shriram. Okay, Shriram will now guide you on the exhibition.
Hi, so my name is Sriram. I work with Kalyani ma'am, and I work with Kalyani ma'am, and it was wonderful experience having to put such message across with the help of mentorship of Kalyani ma'am as well. And I would like to sort of walk you through the whole thing. So the scapes are divided in three parts. There is the deep sea part that you see right here, and then there is the terrestrial part, and then there is also the mountainous areas, right? So all the artworks that you see here today will be mostly made out of waste fabrics and waste material. We would have used lots of textile and fiber art techniques, but the material itself might not be the same. We would have used scrap metals, old newspapers, and all sorts of other discarded waste. So the first artwork that you see is a series of 4, and it depicts coral bleaching. Coral bleaching is when because of minute changes in the sea level, algae leave the coral structure, and it leads to almost permanent death, and that's what's being showcased here. So if you look closely, you'll see the back is patchworked out of small 2-inch waste fabrics that we collected from the tailors and all sorts of random places. There'll also be a lot of beaded artworks and crocheted pieces as well. So if we move on to the next one, as you can see, both of them are quite lively and colorful. But as you go down the line, you'll see how it's becoming muddier, and finally it becomes all white, right? So you can see the whole progression of how the algae leaves the coral, and also it's been showcased through the choice of materials. Most of the white corals that you see will be made out of plastic, old one-time use polythene bags. And so this is the transition box, and that is where all the artwork is being bleached, where you can see a lot of metal. If you look closely behind, you can see newspaper bits woven at the back. So we hand spun our own newspaper, and then wove it, and then attached it for the back here, right? So there will be other smaller ornaments that are placed around here, which relate to the deep sea, which is right over there. And that's just a smaller scape. And we can move on to the next section. Yeah. The other thing I would like to mention is that we have information panels on all the scapes, and they go from global to Indian to also a little bit about Tamil Nadu's, what's happening in Tamil Nadu. And the information was given to us by a organization called Care Earth Trust, who work around Chennai in marshlands and other areas. So this is the first piece that I'd like you to focus on, which is untouched woods. As you can see here, the forest is quite lively and colorful, and also it's beaming with life, right? Some of the inside structure is made out of crushed newspaper, and the outside is just polyester fabrics. The leaves were stitched individually, and if you take a closer look at this leaf, you'll see that this is silk loom waste. So the small bits of fabric fibers that fall down on a pit loom were salvaged, and we sandwiched them and stitched them together to make sheets out of it, and then cut them into leaf shapes, basically. So that's how a lot of these leaves are created. You can see other beaded structures. This is just the opposite, titled Fallen, where you can see an uprooted tree structure and just critters and other minimal insects surviving, and you can see how the whole thing is sort of decaying, and you can clearly see the stark difference in the color as well. The base here is a technique called punch needling, where we have taken waste wool yarns out of other projects and used that to make a handmade rug of sorts. And that's how the base for this was created. Handmade rug. Yeah, handmade rug. Yeah. The inside again is out of crushed newspapers here, and then the outside is covered with polyester fabric, which is hand stitched. I'd like you to direct. So these two tapestries are depicting forest fires, and you can titled Ablaze 1 and 2. So this is a hand-woven piece, which is there are some interesting materials that I would like you to direct towards. So the gray part that you see here is made out of discarded newspapers. So we have hand spun them, made it into yarn, and woven it here. The light brown that you see here is actually tea bags. So this is just tea that we consume in our studio, which is being dried, opened up, and then made into larger sheets and then spun to make our own yarn. The other frayed pieces that you see will be old fabrics, again same hand spun and then hand woven, and there'll be other woolen yarns as well around here. Yeah. So these two pieces sort of, yeah. So this space talks about the frozen world, where you can, so a lot of mountainous and places. The piece that you see in front is a felted piece, which is made out of wool. So what you do is, the base is wet felted, meaning you compress the wool fibers together with water and soap, and then we individually go on top and poke it with a sharp needle. What, they're like 2 months to 3 months? Yeah.
How many of you work on it?
So we are 4 people, including Kalyani ma'am. Yeah.
4 of you, 2 months.
No, the entire thing took us 18 months, but one artwork maybe will take us 2 months or so. The work in studio is very collaborative, so all of us have a small part in each one of them. So it's not like an individual person who is making the entire thing. It's a little bit of everybody doing whatever they're good at, sort of thing. Yeah.
What do? You make a sketch and then.
For this, yeah. So we first have we look at our inspiration, we collect inspiration images, and then we combine them to make our own sketch and sort of also think of what we want to convey with this artwork, right? So this was supposed to be like a happy landscape. So we wanted to show the before of how it looked all pretty, while something that you see behind you is melting off and falling, to showcase melting of glaciers and, icebergs drifting apart. So we think of all of those things and then start working on like whatever material we feel best communicates what we want to. This is new magazine paper, and there will be metal inside. Yeah.
You crafted each one of them.
Yeah, crafted each one of them and then stuck them separate. Yeah. The base is also made out of waste thermocol and paper mache, basically, shredded paper.
Mix it together.
Yeah, so we collect all these like big pieces of thermocol that you get from AC packaging, fridge, and all of those things. They are cut into the square shape that we want, and then we use Fevicol and paper, shredded paper, to stick on top of it, and then it's painted. So that's how this is made. So the piece that you see in front is titled Lost in the Ice, and the base that you see is actually a paper of sorts called Tyvek, which is a construction material used in weatherproofing houses and automobiles and things of that nature. And it has an interesting property of shrinking and expanding when exposed to heat. So that's how the peaks and valleys of the iceberg, the topographical view of the whole thing, is being showcased. The piece at the bottom that you see is almost entirely made out of plastic. You can even spot bubble wrap or other sorts of single-use plastic that you might come across on a daily basis. The base is a patchwork of handmade, like hand-spun, hand-woven fabrics and other old fabrics that we sort of put together.